All right, let's talk about the pattern you've been stuck in for years. You get motivated, you start strong, you see some results, and then life happens. 3 months later, you're right back where you started, maybe even worse. You tell yourself this time will be different, but deep down, you're wondering if you're just one of those people who can't stick with anything. Here's the truth that might sting a little. It's not about motivation. It's not about willpower. And it's not about having the perfect plan. The reason your transformation never sticks is because you're focused on outcomes instead of identity. You're relying on discipline instead of systems, and you're trying to change everything at once instead of building one unshakable habit at a time. Welcome back to Straight Talk with Abby, the audio series to help you level up your fitness after 40. For those of you who are new here, I'm Abby, personal trainer, certified nutritionist, and strength and conditioning coach, and I'm passionate about providing you with the know-how on how to get out of your own way to become your best self. Today, I'm diving deep into the psychology of behavior change and why some people transform their bodies temporarily while others transform their entire lives permanently. By the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly why you keep falling back into those old patterns and what you need to do differently this time to make it stick for good. Let's get into it. Let's start by destroying the biggest myth in the fitness industry, that motivation is what drives long-term change. Motivation, it's what gets you started. It's what makes you sign up for the gym membership on January 1st or hire a trainer after seeing an unflattering photo of yourself at a wedding. Motivation feels powerful in the moment, but it's also the most unreliable, inconsistent force you could possibly build your transformation on. Here's why motivation fails. It's an emotion, and emotions are temporary by definition. They fluctuate based on your mood, your stress levels, how much sleep you got, what's happening in your life, and 1,000 other variables that you cannot control. You feel motivated on Monday morning after watching an inspiring video, but by Wednesday afternoon, when you're tired from work and stressed about deadlines, that motivation has completely evaporated and you're back to your old habits. The fitness industry sells you motivation because it's profitable. Motivational content gets clicks, gets shares, gets engagement. Transformation photos with inspiring captions make you feel like you can do it too. But what they don't show you is what happens 6 months later when the motivation is gone and only the habits remain. Most of those transformation photos, the person gained it all back because they built their entire approach on the shaky foundation of temporary motivation instead of permanent systems. Think about the things you do consistently in your life without needing motivation. You brush your teeth every day. You shower regularly. I freaking hope so. You show up to work on time. You pay your bills. Do you need motivation to do these things? No, because they're not motivated behaviors. They're habits that have become part of your identity and your routine. You don't sit around waiting to feel motivated to brush your teeth. You just do it because that's what people do. That's what you do. And not doing it would feel weird and wrong and be incredibly gross. So that's the level of automaticity that you need with your fitness behaviors. When working out becomes something you just do, like brushing your teeth, rather than something you need to psych yourself up for, that's when transformation becomes permanent. When eating protein at every meal becomes your default, rather than something you have to consciously think about and force yourself to do, that's when nutrition becomes sustainable. But here's the problem. Most people never get to that point because they're constantly chasing motivation instead of building systems. They watch motivational videos when they don't feel like working out instead of creating an environment and a routine that makes working out the path of least resistance. They follow inspirational accounts when their discipline is wavering instead of building habits that don't even require discipline to maintain. Motivation can be a useful spark that gets you started, but if you're still relying on motivation 3 months into your transformation, you've already failed. You just don't know it yet because the motivation will run out. It always does. And when it does, you'll be left with nothing to fall back on because you never built the actual infrastructure of sustainable change. Here's what you need to understand at a deep level. Discipline and motivation are finite resources that get depleted throughout the day. Every decision you make, every temptation you resist, every time you force yourself to do something you don't feel like doing, you're draining your willpower battery. By the end of a long, stressful day, your discipline is shot and your motivation is completely gone. That's why you eat well all day and then blow it at night. That's why your morning workouts are consistent, but evening workouts never happen. That's why you start strong every week and fall apart by Friday. The solution isn't to have more motivation or stronger discipline. The solution is to build habits and systems that don't require motivation or discipline to execute. You need to make the right choices so automatic and easy that they happen even when you're tired, stressed, unmotivated, and running on fumes. That's the difference between temporary transformation and permanent change. Now let's talk about the most powerful concept in behavior change psychology: identity-based habits. This is what separates people who lose 30 pounds and gain it back from people who lose 30 pounds and keep it off for decades. It's not that one group has better discipline or stronger motivation. It's that one group changed their behaviors while the other group changed their identity. Here's the fundamental difference. Behavior-based change focuses on what you want to achieve. Identity-based change focuses on who you want to become. Behavior-based change sounds like, I want to lose 30 pounds, or I want to run a 5K, or I want to fit into my old jeans. Identity-based change sounds like, I'm becoming someone who takes care of their body, or I'm the type of person who prioritizes their health, or I'm an athlete now. When your goal is outcome focused, like lose 30 pounds, what happens when you hit that goal? The motivation disappears because you achieved what you set out to achieve. You lose the weight, you celebrate, you relax your standards, and slowly but surely, the weight comes back because you never actually changed who you are at a fundamental level. You just temporarily changed what you were doing. But when your goal is identity focused, becoming someone who takes care of their body, there's no finish line. It's not something you achieve and then stop doing. It's who you are now. And when it's part of your identity, the behaviors flow naturally from that identity. You don't have to force yourself to work out because working out is what people like you do. You don't have to battle with food decisions because eating well is aligned with who you are as a person. Every action you take is essentially a vote for the type of person you want to become. When you go to the gym, even though you don't feel like it, you're casting a vote for, I'm the type of person who shows up for themselves. When you choose the grilled chicken instead of fried chicken, you're casting a vote for, I'm the type of person who makes health conscious choices. When you go to bed on time, instead of staying up scrolling your phone, you're casting a vote for, I'm the type of person who prioritizes recovery and self-care. The beautiful thing about this voting system is that you don't need a unanimous vote. You don't need to be perfect. You just need the majority of your votes to align with the identity you're building. If you work out 4 times this week and skip 3 times, you're still voting for I'm someone who works out regularly, more than you're voting for I'm sedentary. If you eat protein-focused meals 80% of the time and have less optimal meals 20% of the time, you're still overwhelmingly voting for I'm someone who eats well. This is why all or nothing thinking is so destructive. When you think you need perfection and then you miss a workout or eat something off your plan, you interpret that as evidence that you're not the type of person you're trying to become. One missed workout becomes, I'm not disciplined. One suboptimal meal becomes, I'm not the type of person who can stick with healthy eating. And once you've decided that's who you are, your behaviors start aligning with that identity. Instead, you need to see every single behavior as an opportunity to cast a vote. Missed your morning workout? That's 1 vote for sedentary, but you can cast a vote for active by taking a walk at lunch or doing a quick evening session. Overate at lunch? Well, that's 1 vote for poor nutrition, but you can cast 3 votes for good nutrition with your snack, dinner, and evening choices. You're not trying to be perfect. You're human, okay? You're trying to have the majority of your votes align with who you're becoming. The identity shift also changes how you talk about yourself and how you think about challenges. Someone who's trying to lose weight says, I can't eat that. I'm on a diet, when offered cake at a party. But someone who has shifted their identity says, I don't eat that. I'm taking care of my body. Or even simpler, no thanks, I'm good. Notice the difference? I can't implies restriction and deprivation. I don't implies identity and choice. One makes you feel like you're missing out. The other makes you feel aligned with who you are. When you face a challenging situation, like you're tired, you don't feel like working out, you want to skip the gym, the behavior-based approach leads to an internal negotiation where you try to convince yourself why you should work out despite not wanting to. This negotiation requires willpower, which is a finite resource, like I said a little bit ago. So sometimes you win the negotiation and work out. Sometimes you lose and skip it. It's exhausting and inconsistent. The identity-based approach is different. When you're tired and you don't feel like working out, the question isn't, should I work out even though I don't want to? The question is, what would the type of person I'm becoming do in this situation? And the answer is usually obvious. The type of person you're becoming would show up anyway, maybe with a modified workout, but they'd show up because that's who they are. There's no negotiation. There's no internal battle. That's just alignment with identity. This is how people make fitness look effortless. It's not that they have more discipline or more motivation than you. It's that their identity has shifted to the point where the behaviors are no longer something they force themselves to do. The behaviors are expressions of who they are. They work out because there's someone who works out. They eat well because there's someone who eats well. It's that simple and that profound. The question you need to ask yourself constantly is, what type of person do I want to become? And then, what would that type of person do in this situation? Every choice becomes an opportunity to align with that identity or move away from it. Over time, as you accumulate votes for the identity you want, you start to believe it. And once you believe it, the behaviors become automatic. Now let's talk about why goals are overrated and systems are everything. This is going to go against everything you've been taught about fitness and transformation, but stick with me because this shift in thinking is what separates temporary results from permanent change. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. Goals are outcome focused. Systems are behavior focused. Goals are the destination. Systems are the vehicle that gets you there. Here's the problem with goals. They're inherently temporary. You set a goal to lose 30 pounds. You work toward it. You achieve it. And then what? The goal is accomplished. So the behaviors that got you there often disappear because you no longer have the goal motivating you. This is why so many people yo-yo diet their entire lives. They hit their goal weight, they relax their systems, and they regain the weight. Then they set the goal again, repeat the cycle, and wonder why it never sticks. Goals also create a binary success-failure dynamic that's psychologically destructive. Either you hit your goal and you're successful, or you don't hit your goal and you're a failure. If your goal is to work out 5 times per week and you only make it 4 times, you failed according to the goal framework. Never mind that working out 4 times per week is dramatically better than not working out at all. The goal says 5, you did 4, you failed. This all or nothing thinking is what causes people to completely abandon their efforts when they can't meet their goals perfectly. Systems, on the other hand, are ongoing processes that you commit to regardless of the outcomes. Your system might be, I work out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 6 a.m. That's not a goal. That's a system. It doesn't have an endpoint. It doesn't have a success failure binary. You either executed the system this week or you didn't. And then you execute it again next week. The focus is entirely on the process, not on the outcome. The beautiful paradox of focusing on systems instead of goals is that you often achieve better outcomes. When you're focused on losing 30 pounds, you're constantly evaluating your progress against that goal, getting discouraged when progress is slow, because it often is, and obsessing over the scale and feeling like a failure when the number doesn't move fast enough. This psychological burden often leads to giving up. But when you're focused on the system, like I eat protein at every meal, I work out 3 times per week, and I sleep at least 7 hours per night, you're simply executing the behaviors and trusting that the outcomes will take care of themselves. And guess what? They do. When you consistently educate a good system, you get good outcomes almost as a side effect. But the outcomes aren't what you're focused on or measuring yourself against. You're focused on process excellence. This also solves the what happens when I reach my goal problem. If your system is, I'm someone who lifts weights 3 times per week, that system doesn't stop when you hit a certain body weight or physique. That system is just who you are now. It continues indefinitely because it's not tied to achieving a specific outcome. It's tied to executing a process that's part of your identity and routine. Let me give you some concrete examples of how to shift from goal-focused to system-focused thinking. Goal-focused, I want to lose 30 pounds. System-focused, I eat 3 protein-focused meals per day with vegetables at lunch and dinner. I strength train Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 a.m. I walk 8,000 steps daily, and I sleep 7 to 8 hours per night. Goal focused. I want to run a 5K in under 30 minutes. System focused. I run 3 times per week following a progressive training plan. I do mobility work twice per week. I fuel properly before and after runs. Goal focused. I want to fit into my old jeans. It's a popular one. System focused. I track my food intake to ensure I'm in an appropriate calorie range. I prioritize protein at every meal, and I strength train to preserve muscle mass while losing fat. Notice how the system-focused versions are entirely about behaviors and processes you control, while the goal-focused versions are about outcomes you don't directly control. You can't directly control whether you lose 30 pounds. There are too many variables involved, but you can absolutely control whether you eat 3 protein-focused meals today. You can't directly control whether you run a 5K in under 30 minutes. Your genetics, age, and training history all play a role, but you can absolutely control whether you follow your training plan this week. When you focus on what you control, the behaviors, the systems, the processes, you remove the anxiety and pressure that comes from outcome-based goals. You're no longer obsessing over results you can't directly control. You're simply showing up and executing your system, knowing that if you do that consistently, good outcomes are inevitable. This also means you need to divorce your self-worth from outcomes. If you base your sense of success on whether you lost weight this week, you're setting yourself up for an emotional roller coaster because weight loss is not linear and it's influenced by many factors beyond your control. But if you base your sense of success on whether you executed your system this week, you have complete control over that metric and you can feel good about yourself regardless of what the scale says. Here's how to build an effective system. Start by identifying the key behaviors that, if done consistently, would inevitably lead to the outcomes you want. So for most people trying to improve their fitness and body composition, those behaviors are some combination of regular strength training, adequate protein intake, appropriate calorie management, quality sleep, and stress management. Those are the pillars of an effective system. Then, for each of those behaviors, you create specific, scheduled, non-negotiable commitments, not, I'll try to work out regularly. That's too vague and leaves too much room for negotiation. I strength train Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. That's specific, scheduled, and non-negotiable. Not, I'll try to eat more protein. Too vague. I have a protein source the size of my palm at every meal. Specific and actionable. Your system needs to be simple enough that you can execute it even when life gets chaotic, motivation is low, and you're tired and stressed. If your system is too complicated, it becomes another thing adding stress to your life rather than something that makes your life better. The best system is often the simplest one you'll actually stick with, not the most optimal one that looks perfect on paper, but you can't maintain. Finally, you need to track your adherence to the system, not your progress toward outcomes. Are you executing your system consistently? That's what you measure. Did you strength train Monday, Wednesday, Friday this week? Did you hit your protein target each day? Did you sleep 7 hours per night? These are yes or no questions with clear answers. You're either executing your system or you're not. And when you track system adherence over time, you create accountability and awareness without the emotional weight of outcome-based metrics. Now let's get tactical about how to actually build these permanent habits and systems. The two most powerful strategies are habit stacking and environment design. And when you combine them, you create an infrastructure for change that makes the right behaviors almost automatic. Habit stacking is brilliantly simple. You take a habit you already do consistently and stack a new habit on top of it. The existing habit becomes the trigger for the new habit. The formula is after existing habit, I will new habit. This works because you're leveraging existing neural pathways and routines rather than trying to create entirely new behaviors from scratch. Here's some examples. After I pour my morning coffee, I'll take my vitamins and drink a full glass of water. After I brush my teeth at night, I will lay out my workout clothes for the morning. After I sit down at my desk in the morning, I will do 2 minutes of mobility work. After I finish lunch, I will go for a 10-minute walk. The key is to make the stack specific, immediate, and tied to a behavior that's already automatic. You don't negotiate about whether to brush your teeth, you just do it. So when you stack a new habit onto that automatic behavior, it inherits some of that automaticity. Over time, the new habit becomes just as automatic as the existing one. You can also create longer stacks where multiple behaviors flow together in a sequence. Like I wake up, I drink water, I take my vitamins, I put on my workout clothes, I go to the gym. Each behavior triggers the next one in the sequence, creating a chain that's much stronger than individual isolated behaviors. Environment design is the other critical piece, and this is where most people miss huge opportunities. Your environment is constantly shaping your behavior, usually without you even realizing it. If there's a bowl of candy on your desk, guess what? You're going to eat some more candy than if the candy is in the drawer across the room. If your gym bag is packed and sitting by the door, you're way more likely to work out than if you have to search for your shoes and pack everything in the morning when you're already rushing. The principle is simple. Make good behaviors easy and bad behaviors hard. Reduce the friction for the things you want to do and increase the friction for the things you don't want to do. To make good behaviors easier, prep your meals in advance so healthy eating is convenient. Lay out your workout clothes the night before so there's no morning decision. Keep a bowl of washed fruit on your counter so healthy snacking is visible and easy. And put your phone in another room at night so morning scrolling doesn't happen. The goal is to design your environment so that the default choice, the path of least resistance, is the choice aligned with who you're becoming. Most people rely on willpower to make good choices in environments designed for bad choices. They keep ice cream in the freezer and then try to resist eating it every night. That's exhausting, and it just doesn't work long term. Instead, just don't keep the freaking ice cream in your house. If you want ice cream, you can go to the store and buy a single serving. That's a deliberate choice, not a battle of willpower. Think about your daily environment and routines. Where are the friction points that make good behaviors hard? And where are the triggers that make bad behaviors automatic? Then systematically redesign your environment to support the identity and behaviors you're building. If you struggle with morning workouts, and that's what you need to do, create an environment where working out is easier than not working out. Sleep in your freaking workout clothes if you have to. Put your alarm across the room so you have to get up to turn it off. Have your pre-workout and water bottle ready to grab, and tell your spouse you're working out so there's social accountability. Remove every possible point of friction and excuse. If you struggle with evening snacking, create an environment where snacking is harder. Don't buy snack foods when you grocery shop. Brush your teeth right after dinner to create a psychological endpoint to eating. Keep your hands busy with a hobby or activity. Make tea, a nice cup of hot tea, instead of opening the pantry. Increase the friction between the urge and the behavior. The combination of habit stacking and environment design creates a system where good behaviors happen almost automatically because you've built the infrastructure to support them. You're not relying on motivation or discipline. You're relying on systems and environments that make the right choices, the easy choices. Start small with this. Don't try to redesign your entire freaking life overnight. Pick one keystone habit, a habit that, if done consistently, makes other habits easier. For most people, that's either morning exercise or evening meal prep. Build that one habit using stacking and environment design. Once it's automatic, add another. Slowly but surely, you're building an entire lifestyle of healthy behaviors that feel effortless because you've designed them to be. Here's what I need you to understand. You're not broken, you're not weak, and you don't lack discipline. You've just been approaching transformation the wrong way, focusing on motivation instead of systems, outcomes instead of identity, and goals instead of processes. The people who transform permanently aren't special. They didn't win the genetic lottery or have some superhuman willpower that you don't have. They simply built better systems, aligned their behaviors with their identity, and designed their environment to make success inevitable. Start this week by picking one habit to build using habit stacking and environment design. Just one. Make it so simple and so tied to your existing routine that not doing it would feel weird. Then execute that habit every single day for 2 weeks until it becomes automatic. Then add another. In 6 months, you'll have built a completely different lifestyle, one habit at a time, without relying on motivation or willpower at all. That's how permanent transformation actually works. If you need help building a systematic approach to fitness, be sure to check out my program, Unstoppable 2.0. It's a habit rewiring system built into a fitness program. You can check it out at yourfitnesscheck.com. Thanks for listening to Straight Talk with Abby. If this episode hit you where you needed it, here's what I want you to do. First, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Transformation is contagious, and you never know who's waiting for exactly this message. Second, if you're ready to stop starting over and start becoming the unstoppable version of yourself, I've got something for you. My audiobook, Your Breakthrough Era, Unstoppable Starts Here, is now available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon. It's the deeper dive into everything we talk about here. And if you're ready to go all in on your fitness transformation, check out my program, Unstoppable 2.0, my 12-week program that combines fitness, mindset, and identity work to help you become who you're meant to be. You can find all the details at yourfitnesscheck.com. Remember, your breakthrough era doesn't start when you feel ready. It starts when you decide you're ready. I'll see you next time for more Straight Talk. Until then, keep breaking through.